Hey, saints. So in John chapter 11, verse 34, Jesus inquires about the location of his dead friend Lazarus. He says, "Where have you laid him?" Now, let's go to John chapter 20, starting in verse 15. Mary Magdalene is at the tomb of the resurrected Jesus. Obviously, Jesus isn't in the tomb, that's why she's crying, but what she doesn't realize is it's because Jesus is risen. So in the meantime, Mary Magdalene turns around and sees Jesus standing there, but doesn't realize that it's Jesus standing there and thinks that he's the gardener. So then the gardener, who is Jesus, says to her, "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him." Now, if you've been listening carefully, you see that there's a parallel between Mary Magdalene and Jesus asking, "Where have you laid him?" They both say, "Where have you laid him?" Jesus says this about his dead friend Lazarus, and Mary Magdalene says this about Jesus. Okay, saints, so let's compare the raising of Lazarus in John chapter 11 to the resurrection of Jesus in John chapter 20. So in the raising of Lazarus, Jesus, knowing that Lazarus is dead, asks Mary and Martha, "Where have you laid him?" On the resurrection of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, in her grief, mistakes Jesus for the gardener and asks the gardener, or Jesus, "Where have you laid him?" So in the raising of Lazarus, all of Jesus' followers and all the people there believed that Lazarus was permanently dead. As Scripture says, Lazarus was dead for 4 days before Jesus actually got to him. Martha even points out to Jesus that Lazarus' body probably stinks by now. Now in the resurrection of Jesus, Mary Magdalene thinks that Jesus' body has been stolen, and her focus is not on the resurrection, but on retrieving his body. So in the resurrection of Lazarus, Jesus' question is not born out of ignorance, but it is a compassionate invitation for the sisters and the crowd to witness a miracle. It creates a public record of Lazarus' death and burial, which makes his resurrection undeniable. Now in the resurrection of Jesus, Mary's question comes from a place of human grief and a lack of understanding. She fails to recognize Jesus in his resurrected form. That is, until the Word made flesh, which had now been glorified, speaks her name. Now in the raising of Lazarus, the inquiry leads to the tomb where Jesus performs the miracle of raising Lazarus from the dead, demonstrating the Messiah's power over death. In the resurrection of Jesus, the question, "Where have you laid him?" gives Jesus the opportunity to reveal himself, not as a corpse or a ghost, but as the living Lord. Yeshua is the answer to her question, a living, breathing testimony to his victory over sin and death. In the raising of Lazarus, Jesus' question in John chapter 11, "Where have you laid him?" while not directly set in a named garden, it is still a prelude to his own resurrection, which takes place in a garden tomb. In the case of Jesus' resurrection, John explicitly sets Jesus' resurrection in a garden, and Mary's mistaking Jesus for the gardener carries great theological significance. It positions Jesus as the second Adam who restores what was lost in the Garden of Eden. This parallel serves as a powerful literary device in the Gospel of John, showing Jesus' consistent mastery over death and the transformation of understanding. While Mary and Jesus both ask a similar question, one is born of a faith that knows the miracle is coming, and the other is asked out of despair, yet both lead to the same result, witnessing the glory of God through resurrection. Christ is